Hello, welcome to the channel. Jerry Ludlow here, and this time we're going to be painting a scene from Valencia in Spain, where there's lots of buildings, a clock tower and people walking about. There's lots of light and shadows that are going to bring the whole thing to life, and I'm going to take you through the whole process of simplification of a scene so that you can paint this too. Now the paper that I'm using is Saunders Waterford 140 pounds rough, and the pencil is a 4B, and I hope you can see it in this light, but I put a picture of the image next to it, so hopefully that can be of help to you too. I start with the bigger shapes and just work my way round, trying to make sure that everything fits within this piece of paper. I will be doing it slightly different to what you see in the photograph there, because I want to change where the shadow comes across, and just change it from the straight line of buildings to them having a gap there. And also I'll be putting in on the left hand side some distant hills just to break up that side there, and I'll be making the sky blue, and by that I mean it looks quite pale in the photograph, when it actually is quite a blue Mediterranean sky, which will contrast very nice with the colours of the buildings. I'm putting in a couple of buildings close up on the right hand side, and I'll be very much simplifying things like the windows to what's there in the picture, just making it easier to draw in a loose style. Just getting the perspective right on the left hand side there, and as you can see, the tops of the lamps go down and the rails go up. They go to what's called a vanishing point, which is the level that your eyes are at when you're looking straight ahead. And in this case, it's where the door is on the left hand side next to the clock tower. Fairly simple drawing. Don't worry about too much about the clock, as long as you can get near enough for a circle. It will look very much in keeping with the style of painting that it is. If anything's too perfect, it will stand out. Just putting in some windows and the shutter. All very quick, and I will be adjusting things slightly as we go if they're not quite right perspective wise. I'm putting the windows in so that you can copy what I've done here, but I don't always do that. Sometimes I'll just put them in freehand after I put the first couple of washes on. especially when they're dark, as they will be here. As I say, I won't be making anything too complicated, so you should find it fairly easy to paint along. These windows are going to be quite dark on the right there, so I'm just filling in so you can see it easier. And the buildings here are pretty much the same colour stonework, so I'll change that, just make it a little bit more interesting, mix up the colours a bit, and make the walls look a bit old, and you'll see what I mean by that as we go along. And then putting in some figures in the distance. You don't have to copy what's in front of you, just do what you think looks right to yourself. You can see I'll put a building on the right hand side just to break up the foreground a bit, and also to give me a nice shadow that I want coming from the corner of this near building. Trying not to get too involved with the drawing side of it. A lot of it can be done with a brush as we go along. Just double checking the measurements and things. I normally step back after I've done a drawing and have a look just to make sure things are done to correct scale. But in this case, I'm just going to crack straight on with the sky, which is going to be a Mediterranean sky, which I like to do with cobalt blue and a little bit of cerulean blue. That's a warmer blue and a slightly colder blue. And I've wet the paper because I want the sky to be nice and even. Nice even wash. Only going to put one wash on this sky. Using an inch flat synthetic brush, and not fiddling about too much with the paper, with the paint on the paper. Working quite fast, I don't want any dry edges. This is just going to be one of those clear, warm skies that you get when you're in Spain or anywhere in the Mediterranean. Nice warm day. That's what I'm trying to portray here, a nice feeling of warmth. You see I stopped at the top of the tower and did the left hand side so that I leave a very small area to join up to when I'm finishing off the sky. And with this particular brush, it gives you a nice crisp edge. So I don't want to be going on to the buildings with this. And then that leaves quite a large area of wet paint, which I'll be letting dry, not painting anywhere near it for the time being. And then I'm going to be doing the wall handrail on the left hand side, making sure I don't touch the sky colour. And this is in raw umber, and I've got white on the bottom of the palette, so I'm just putting a little bit of white in there just to lighten it up a bit. And I'm going to be using the same colour for starting on the buildings. Still letting this sky mixture dry. I'm not going to be painting against it. I'm going to leave a slight gap for where the red roof tiles are going to be. This is the first wash. Really just getting some colour down. I'm going to be painting over this. Burnt sienna. See the big difference there? Much more of a warmer, reddy colour. Using artistic license here to put these colours in. You don't have to paint what's in front of you. It's a painting and not a photograph. Varying the colours again. Putting us on quite quickly. Splash the sky a little bit there, but no matter. And doing the second building a bit lighter, just to vary the colours, make it a little bit more interesting. Don't worry about going over the tape either. That's going to be coming off at the end of it. I'm always looking at doing what I can do while the paint's drying, rather than sit there waiting. And here I'm doing the people walking. Just doing them random colours. Red, white, grey. Just so I can keep going with the painting while the washes on the walls and the sky are drying. And then when these washes are dry, I can then carry on with the tower and the building on the left. If I go in too soon, then that may well catch a wet part of the sky and it will just bleed into it and spoil the painting. Just remember to do the bell part on the tower where you can see the sky at the back, which obviously will show through as blue. And still doing what I can, just doing some part of the clock tower. This is a small rigger brush and I'm using a colour called neutral tint, which is quite dark. Very good for doing these pieces like this within a painting. Nice and dark, nice dark colour, and it dries out quite dark too. Now I've let that dry. Dried it off a little bit with a dryer, hair dryer, and just going to remove some of these pencil marks. Don't need them there, and the paint's dry, so I can lose them. You can leave them; it doesn't matter too much. But in this instance, I'm going to remove them. And this is a colour called Jaune, which is spelt Jaune Brilliant, Jaune. And I quite like using this colour. It looks very good in the skies and things like this tower, which is in a very light stone. You can achieve this colour by using white and raw sienna, but I've got it on the palette ready mixed, and it'll be drying out just a little bit lighter. Still working with these first washes on the buildings. And one thing you'll notice as we go through the painting is that I should be dipping into these pools of paint that remain on the palette. That's why I like this palette. I don't wipe anything off while I'm working on a painting, or not very often, unless it gets too dark, and I'll dip into these pools of paint to help me to achieve certain colours as we go. And it means you can work quite fast as well. Now I'm going over the buildings in the centre with burnt sienna and quite red, and just putting in some darks, Payne's grey, sepia. Looks a bit drastic first of all, but they will dry in. I just want to give the impression of like worn out looking walls on these buildings. And using cobalt blue and some Payne's grey to very quickly do this area on the left hand side, which is just distant hills. And that again will dry out quite a bit lighter. And the last building that to be painted that hasn't had a wash in it yet is the one on the left hand side there, and this is raw sienna and a little water. This too is going to be painted over again, just going around these pedestrians, tourists, people walking about. Just add a bit of life to the scene. And the roof on that too, giving that a first wash. All the same colour, raw sienna. All the paints that I use are artist quality, which I find better to use. They have more, they cover better. But you can use student grade watercolours, but you have to use more paint. Now these buildings to the right, still using the same colours, raw umber, raw sienna, and this building too, using a small nylon brush just just to put some dark straight into it, so they're wet in wet. So when they dry out, that will look like a warm part to the wall. And this is more or less neat neutral tint going on for these windows. Once again, trying to go into areas where the paint's dry around it and it won't bleed in. And some nice shadows under the blind here, which is going to be kept plain paper, just to make a feature of it in the sunlight. And just an indication of a rail or a wall on the left hand side there. All done very quickly. And back with the rigger brush, just putting some limbs on these people while I'm still waiting for things to dry. This particular rigger brush does hold quite a lot of paint, and if you're able to, I would recommend purchasing one of this style, which is like a regular paintbrush with the top half trimmed. Now switch brushes. Now this is a small nylon brush, and I'm really just putting a very watery mix on. I want to keep these walls light, and I'm going to be dropping in a few darks just to make it look weathered. Just popping in some Payne's grey, just to make it look a bit more interesting. And going particularly dark around the cover, around the shutters, or the canopy, I should say, over the what is a shop entrance. And then the rigger brush again with dark paint, doing the bells. In the clock tower or bell tower, one or the other. Just popping in a few architectural details, give an indication of some blocks, bricks, that kind of thing, which make up this building. And then when I put another coat on the tower, they will kind of melt into it. You'll lose those hard edges. You can see how I'm working here, where I put the first coat on these buildings, and then the first wash, and now going with the second wash and varying it. And as I said, dipping into the different pools of paint, and now going with some colder colour to weather it a bit, make it look a bit more weathered. and an indication of some roof tiles and a chimney. Keep that nice and dark against the lighter sky. Now that's dried, I've got the putty rubber and I'm just taking off those pencil marks I've got around where the people are. Don't want those, just want the white to show around them. And a very watery wash over the clock tower. Once again using the paint that I've got on the palette. This was the bluer mix. Carefully going around the people. Making it darker where the people are, make them stand out. No particular order of things, putting in the windows and details here. Well, in this instance I'm putting in the red roof tiles with light red. Now I'm going to be doing some of the windows which have very, very dark green shutters bordering on black. Just working my way from left to right. Using a very small synthetic brush with a nice point to it. This is an Escoda brush. They last quite a long time and they do keep a nice point. Not being too fussy here with the windows and the doorway. Should make it a bit easier for you to copy. Now going in with some of the darks, just sorting out my brushes again. And I've got a very fine synthetic and a very small fine synthetic and the rigger brush again, which I should be using to good effect. And what I've done here is I've done the line with the rigger brush, and this is just a brush with water on it, running it along so that the colour just runs down a little bit, just give the impression of overhanging tiles and a bit of shadow. Just working out as I go here where I'm going to be putting some marks just to break up these large areas of blank walls. Tend to use the rigger brush a lot in these streetscapes. And at the same time trying to use a little bit of restraint. Try not to paint everything. And then on the left hand side there's these 3 lampposts that look very nice, make a very good feature. And keep the eye in the painting. Stop the eye drifting out on the left hand side. Sorry about that slight break there in the transmission. And these are just aerials and things like that on the roof of these buildings. Just concentrating on these windows and doorways, just darkening them up where I think they need to be darkened, giving it a little bit of thought. thinking, what do I need to put in and what can I leave out? Now this is a mop brush in which I'm using Cobalt blue and alizarin crimson. A nice big puddle of this paint because I need quite a bit, and I'm putting in the shadow from the building. And what I'm trying to do here is just go over everything once, just leave a few areas of white, and then using the same brush which has got a very fine point on these people walking where they'd have the sun catching their right hand side and casting a shadow onto the pavement, which this really brings the painting to life. And there was a bush on the left hand side by the wall which I'll put in as another guide to keep your eye in the painting. Just go in the once with a ready-made green, which is Hooker's green, and French ultramarine. And just to give it a bit of interest, just putting in some marks separating the buildings. Now I'm taking the masking tape off here, which is just regular masking tape, just household masking tape, nothing special. And I still need to finish off the painting by using some white gouache. Which I'll use straight out of the top of the tube with a very fine brush, just to fill in these areas like the lamps. And you'll see as I go around, I'll just give the painting just a little bit of sparkle here and there. Try not to go too mad with it. Just where the sun's catching and reflections are catching the buildings, shutters, that kind of thing. Just kind of making up as you go along here with this one. And any bits like this where the blind is, anything I'm not happy with that's white, I can paint over with this. Top of the wall where the sun's catching it. And there's a handrail there on the balcony, just catching the light. And there we are. Valencia, a sunny day. I hope you tried this one, and I hope you enjoyed it. See you all again next time. Goodbye for now.